All right, you guys, we're here. We're making our weekly loaf of sandwich bread. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. The first one being, why do I use this guy instead of using a bread maker? The reason is because this is how the bread turns out. It's literally perfect. Just follow me. 1.5 cups of warm milk. If you use water and your bread turns out hard, don't come at me, bro. I told you what to use. 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. You can use instant or active. 1 tablespoon of sugar. Whisk it together and let it sit for at least 5 minutes. You'll see some bubbles start to form. If your bubbles don't start to form, that means your yeast is dead. When you use dead yeast, your bread's not going to rise. Next, you're going to add 3.5 cups of flour and a teaspoon of salt. If you're new to this, you're going to measure your flour wrong. It's just going to happen. You might add a little too much your first time. If this is you, get a kitchen scale. But also common sense goes a long way. If your bread is liquidy, add a little bit more flour. If it's super dry and crusty, add a little bit more milk. This is what your dough should look like. You'll get it eventually, I promise. Add 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Room temperature is better, but I've forgotten how to put it in the microwave. Knead for 5 minutes in a mixer, 10 minutes if you're doing it by hand. Take your dough out, put it in an oiled, clean bowl, cover it with a wet towel until it doubles in size. This usually takes me about an hour. I'm in California. If you're in colder climates, it might take you a little bit longer. If you're at higher elevation, babies, you're going to have to Google it. Sorry, I don't know. I have no idea. I have zero idea. Once your dough has doubled in size, go ahead and punch the air out. You can't skip this step. If you skip this step, your dough is going to overproof and it's going to be spilling out of the bread pan. Lightly dust your surface with flour. I like to use a silicone mat because it makes cleanup easier. We're going to pat our dough down, then we're going to roll it out just 1 or 2 passes. It doesn't need to be super thin. Then we're going to roll it up like a burrito. Again, this technique is just what I was taught when I was taught how to make bread. I don't know why we roll it. I have zero idea. Zero idea why. I'm going to grease a pan with butter. Let it rise for a second time for 45 minutes. You want this pan? Go to my BIO. You know where to get one. I'm first going to bake it covered at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. I'll now take the top off. I'm going to raise the temperature to 375 or 400 degrees for another 8 to 10 minutes. I'm looking out for my desired crust color. Once I see the color that I want, I take it out. Have to let it cool completely before you slice it. I know everybody loves hot, warm bread, but if you cut it too soon, it will not be done in the middle. The next thing you're going to ask is, how do I cut my slices so perfectly? I don't have an answer for that. I'm just perfect. But I do recommend using a super sharp bread knife, and I also recommend waiting until your bread cools completely. It helps with the slicing. If you're not going to eat this within 4-ish days, I recommend putting it in the refrigerator. It'll last a lot longer. Yes, it will also dry it out a little bit, but what do you guys want from me? It's preservative free. It's not going to last for 10 months. Bon appetit, babes.